Hello, humans of the earth, and thank you for joining us on this wonderful day. My name is Dana,
And my name is Heidi.
and this is Fun Times with Dana and Heidi. Today, we have a very special guest for a very special episode with us, and that is Miss Arianna Jonae. So, would you want to introduce yourself? So, what is it that you do, what is it that you do?
In the world. Well, my name is Arianna Jonae. I am an actress, a content creator, I guess influencer. I also am a host, and I host a podcast called Move Girl about self-love and confidence. And yeah.
We're so excited to have you. So I guess I'll just introduce myself. So my name is Heidi Ho. Me and Dana are both from South Texas. So we love triple digit weather numbers. It's crazy here. And me and Dana, we founded Fun Times with Dana and Heidi. And I guess Dana, you can go into how we started this entire idea.
Yeah, so we were both in drama class because we're still teenagers. So we
We're
were
theater
both,
geeks.
yes. So we were both in drama class, and we had some free time on our hands, so we were just like chatting. And we were talking with our teacher, and he was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be so funny if you guys started a podcast together?" And we were like, "Oh yeah, like whatever." We were just going along with the joke, but then I was thinking about it later on, and Heidi texted me. She was like, "Do you want to make the podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, let's make a podcast."
Yeah.
And we had some other ideas, but as COVID-19 started to continue, we thought that it would be best if we focus on positive news stories, because I noticed that a lot of the news, or at least a lot of the current news right now, is very negative, and there's nothing really good out there to like help you restore your faith in humanity, and that that people will persevere and that we will get through this, and there is kindness in people. And so I thought that was a really important message to share, and so we started the podcast, and we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love that so much because it's so true. Like, especially now, like we're stuck in the house, so all we can do is just like get
We're
online.
bored in the house, and in the house bored.
In the house bored. I can tell you how many times I've blasted that song and like danced around the house. Now I'm like, dang, I've done it too many times. But I love that. I love what you guys are doing. And it's so cool because I literally, when I was in high school, my cheer coach was actually the one who got me into hosting, because I made YouTube videos, and she was like, oh, there's this hosting gig for this cheerleading association, NCA. She was like, you should try it out. I know you're like in entertainment and stuff. So it's like really cool because like I literally was doing what you guys are doing back when I was in high school years ago.
What a queen. What a queen who knows her path in life. Take the chance.
Well, I just thought it was a fun gig. I was like, oh, I get to be on camera. And then like I fell in love. And I was like, wait a minute. Like I can get paid to talk. I already do this all the time.
That's so funny. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're here with us today. And I guess we already kind of did our introduction. Well, let me tell you how I found you, first of all. Me and Dana are huge theater geeks. You already know that. We love to act. We think it's so fun, honestly, to be someone that you're not. That sounds horrible. Not in that way, not in that way.
But to like play pretend.
Yeah, like a good way to like de-stress.
Yeah, and like I'm into music, so the Merrill twins used to do covers, and I would like look at their covers, and then they did Prom Night and Where's My Romeo, and you were acting in it, and I was like, this lady is so good. Thank
you.
I was like, her acting skills are on fleek. So when the end credits came on, I was like, Arianna Jonae. Went straight to Instagram, followed you. Little did I know that a few years later that we would create a podcast and we would have you guest speak. So I want to thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. My cheeks are twitching. I'm like, oh, I'm smiling too much.
Love smiling.
That means a lot.
Yes. So as you can tell by the title of this special episode, we are going to be talking about how to live your best life during a worldwide pandemic. And so I know that being in this kind of setting right now is really, really different for everyone across all ages, especially for people that are still in school. Online school is a whole different thing. Yeah, very, very new, but we're still persevering and we're still getting used to it. So this podcast episode is all about how to improve yourself, well, not improve yourself, and also make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your mental health during this quarantine, because it can be very chaotic. So, Arianna, do you have any thoughts about how like this quarantine can affect the mental health?
Yeah, you know what? It's so crazy because usually, like, when the world is open,
Yeah.
we are always on the go. Like, everybody's always doing something, like, whether you're in school or whether you're at work or hanging out with friends, like, we always are busy and our minds are always preoccupied. And now that we're like, gonna have more free time on our hands, it's like we actually have time to dig into our own thoughts and like understand our own mind. But that's something that a lot of people aren't used to, and so it's overwhelming. Yeah, and it's scary because it's like, wait a minute, like, oh, I didn't know I felt this way, like, what? So early on, I know a lot of, like, me personally and a lot of my friends, we had a pretty difficult time just adjusting to not being on the go and not like having something to do all the time and have to like be alone with our own thoughts. But it actually made life a little bit more clear, and actually taking the time to be alone with your thoughts. And even if it is scary at first, and like sometimes thoughts can be pretty negative, but if you work through it and like you just can't avoid everything that you're thinking and feeling, then you can actually understand what you want out of life. Like, you can understand why you feel a certain way, because you may be on the go and like not realize that you don't like your career path, or you may not like where you're living, or you may not like the people that you've been surrounding yourself with, but you don't take the time to like actually notice that because you're just too busy just going and doing what you gotta do. But just taking that time, even just like meditating or journaling, or even just talking it out with like one other close friend or something, is a really, really great way to kind of like not let the negative side of what's going on affect you, and actually to use it to your advantage, like figure out why you're feeling so negative about it. Because being alone with your own thoughts is very open.
Intimidating, because
it's kind of intimidating. But I think that quarantine, I agree with you, quarantine is the perfect time to try to process your thoughts and understand how you're feeling and try to sort that all out. And I know that especially when the quarantine first started, like when it was still just beginning, I remember there being a ton of YouTube videos that are about like how to be productive in quarantine, and you need to do all of these things because if not, you're wasting time in quarantine. But that's not true. You deserve to have time for yourself, to make time for yourself, to just relax and unwind, whether that be through meditation, through journaling, or even just like watching Netflix and taking a nap and being you need time for yourself. You can't be working all the time. And even and it's good to be a little bit productive, like to do things that you like to do and that you feel are making progress in your life. But you shouldn't hold yourself to such a high standard that you have to be working and working all the time.
Right. You get burnt out on it. Like, it's so, I think we just we live in a time where, since the internet is like so huge now and anybody can do whatever they want, like literally you could just like make a show, you could do make a whole film, or like you could literally do whatever you want because we have the freedom now of the internet and so many new resources. And so people, I think a lot of us, like I know for sure me, I thought that like I had to take advantage of everything. So when all those videos were coming out, I started feeling bad because I was like, wait, I'm not doing that. Like I'm tired. Like wait, what? And also on top of that, like feeling the pressure to have to work on something while also going through everything mentally, like it was just a lot because it was a scary time. So what was gonna happen? It was a lot. So,
and I know like a lot of people, they tend to live for other people instead of themselves, and they're like people pleasers where they put other people in front of them, when in reality you can't light another candle unless you are lit yourself.
Woo! Yeah. That's a great quote.
Quotes are my life. So this time I really got to sit down by myself, not on my cell phone, not on any device whatsoever, and be like, what am I doing in my life? And sometimes I'm clueless, and sometimes you can be clueless, and you're stuck in between these two barriers, and you don't know where you are and where you're supposed to be. But that moment is the time where I had to realize I'm exactly where I need to be. And if you really want something, you need to go work for it, because the dream won't work unless you do.
Woo! Yes, that's so true. It's so true. And like, I think being in that place is a powerful place too. Like, there is where you really start to evaluate everything in every possible like scenario. And even though it feels like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? Like, where am I? And it feels like vulnerable, but that's the place where you find your passion, and that's the place where you are able to pursue your passion and figure out a game plan and figure out what you want to do and find ways to get there that aren't gonna like burn you out or make you too upset or tired or drain you. And I think that's a powerful place to be.
It really is. And with that being said, a lot of people are down in the dumps this time. And how do you think we can improve our mental health during this time, or any time actually?
Well, first thing is don't get on social media as much. Or if you are, like, be very, very I guess I don't want to say strategic, I don't think that's the word, but be very, I guess, cognizant of what you are taking in. And like, if you have to mute certain accounts, mute them. If you have to like take it off your phone, take Instagram or like YouTube off your phone for a couple of days, and go ahead and do it. I think that's a big part of where a lot of our anxiety comes from, because not only are we, and the news as well, like, be very, very, very careful of the news, because the thing that a lot of people don't know is that each individual news station and each individual media outlet is its own, outlet. So they're going to have their own voice, and they're going to skew stories to kind of like go with what their views are. And a lot of people watching don't necessarily know that. Like, when I grew up, it was just like news was just news. Like, it's telling you the news. But as I went through, because I went to school for broadcasting, and as I went through school and I started to kind of like know what the agenda was behind a lot of media stations, and even like social media things now too, because social media is media. But they will skew stories to kind of like, either they want to make you react, because that's the big point of these stories, to get people to watch, is they want to get you to get emotionally, they want to get an emotional reaction out of you. So be very careful of what you're watching, because it is designed to make you feel emotional, and it's designed to make some kind of like pull.
They want a reaction out of you.
And they're gonna get it, because they know how to get those like moments and stuff. Like, we would literally have to have certain like sound bites and stuff, and like if we could get people, like, this is in college, if we could get people to be emotional about their story or cry, like, that's what they wanted us to do, like, that's what they taught us to do. So a big way, or just hit my knee, a big way to kind of limit negative, I guess, energy in your space, is to limit what media you're taking in. And then also to switch over to more positive content, like this podcast, or
podcast. So
young. It's coming back soon. I had to take a little hiatus. I'm doing some like revamping and stuff, but there's also like a bunch of YouTube channels where people, like, I know this girl named Jonae Daily is somebody I just found. She makes content about like home decor and making your space feel good, and like what different elements to add into your space to make it feel right for you, and like just different things like that. I think if you switch up what you regularly watch and switch to things that kind of like help to elevate your own mood and get your mind off of all the craziness, that's something that really, really helps me personally. And also spending time with friends, like talking to friends on like Skype or on Zoom or on FaceTime or just a phone call or text, anything, like just to kind of like have just like a fun conversation. And like, it doesn't have to be about all the craziness going on, and you don't have to feel pressured to to talk about it. I at the beginning, I felt like I had to talk about everything that was going on in the world, and at some points I didn't feel like, I just really didn't want to. I just couldn't do it. Like, it was like a lot, especially like with all the movements that are going on now, and everyone would come to me and ask me stuff because I'm their Black friend, and I'm like, can I sleep? So it got a little overwhelming, and there were times where I just did not want to talk about what was going on to people that it was like new to them. And like, I grew up in Texas as well, and so I grew up in North Texas in Mansfield. So I have plenty of stories of like, you know, inequality and discrimination and things like that. And so something that had been going on my whole life that, you know, I just learned to kind of like, it was just, I just had to live with it, you know, which sucked, but that's the world we live in. And so all those things that I had suppressed throughout the years started coming up when the movement started, when the Black Lives Matter movement started. And I did use my voice and I spread resources and things like that. But like, I didn't want to have to do a bunch of conversations with friends to educate them on the situation. Because I'm like, ugh, this has been going on for 26 years of my life. Yeah. Years. So make sure conversations with your friends, like, of course, when you're like good, and like you said, you can't light a candle unless you're lit yourself. So I had to take a little bit of time to just kind of like make sure that I was good, which was like, you know, self-care, taking a lot of love baths and meditating. And when I talked to my friends for a little bit, I would tell them, hey, like, I just don't, like, not today. But then after I was able to like get rejuvenated and like, you know, become strong in myself, then I was able to tell them like my experiences, my stories, and like things like that. But I think making sure that when you have those conversations with friends, like, it doesn't always have to be about what's going on, that you can have a conversation that's actually just to release, or just to laugh, or just to talk about something, or like watch a movie together, or through FaceTime or anything like that. I feel like that's a great way to kind of like better your mental health and put yourself in a better mindset, and then you can kind of handle those like harder conversations after you take care of you first. So those are ways that I think, I kind of rambled with that one, but those are ways.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. We love it.
I'll tell you all the juice. But yeah, those are just like ways that I was able to kind of like get my mental health in a better place throughout quarantine. It's just doing things that I love, like turning on music and like dancing. It may seem silly, but like just dancing in the house, or just having a night, like a date night, or, you know, even over Skype, you can have like a date night over Zoom.
If it's working, if Skype is working.
Right. Sometimes it's Zoom for me. My computer just doesn't want to do Zoom, so I always have to do it on my phone now. But yeah, those are
I'm so sorry.
I totally agree.
Always technical difficulties.
So yeah, I totally agree with you, especially about, you know, your conversations with your friends don't always have to be about COVID-19 or whatever movements or social issues are going on right now. Me and Heidi text all the time. She just sends me random TikToks, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So things like that are a great way to just de-stress and feel more connected, even though we're all so separated. And so it's good to have like that social interaction. And I also agree with you when you say about the social media, because I know that especially like the beauty standards on like Instagram and those like photo oriented platforms, they're just so incredibly high, to the point where if you don't edit your photo to like a certain way, it's not acceptable to society. And we really understand that a lot of what we see on social media isn't very realistic, and the large majority of it has been edited or altered in some type of way to fit completely unrealistic standards.
And then it can make you feel bad, because you're like, you look at these people, you're like, they look like that in quarantine, and my hair will be all over my head, and bags and drooping. I'm like, what?
You're like, what's pants? Like, what's pants?
Yeah, what's pants? I don't know.
I'm wearing leggings right now.
Only just professional here up.
Right. I'm like, oh, got the jacket, you know. But the sweats and the house shoes, I got my little house shoes on too. So
yes. I'm like barefoot. I'm like fresh in quarantine.
Yeah. But if it makes you feel good, then that's all that matters.
Indeed. And you know, Dana, you're not on social media like at all, right, Dana?
Yeah, I don't really have social media. I mean, sometimes I go on like Twitter, but I don't have an account. I just like to see what's trending. I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't really, I don't know. I don't really see like, I know that it's really helpful in like communicating with like friends and family. But apart from that, I feel like if you choose not to associate with social media, whether that's by choice or your parents are like, no, it's
It's a
still,
power move.
yeah, it's still a really it's still a really great way to like take care of yourself and not have all of these expectations, you know, always in the back of your mind because you're being exposed to it on a daily basis. And so
Right.
just know that even though, you know, like no matter what your age is, you don't need to have social media if you don't want to. If you feel
Right.
it's like a negative force in your life and it's just putting a lot of stress on you, then I mean there's nothing from stopping you that you just like, you know, either disconnect it from a little while or just delete it if you're really not into it. And just there's nothing wrong with that. Like it doesn't need to be a part of your life or a major
Right.
part of your life. And sorry, I lost track. Oh, and it just, even if you do have it, it's good to like take breaks a little while so you can settle yourself back in, you know, the real world or where you stand amongst all of this. Because when you're on social media websites or apps, it can feel like really really chaotic, and there's like all of these things happening at the same time, and it just feels like this huge frenzy that you're just stuck in the middle of it. So if you disconnect from that, it kind of helps you see everything in a more organized manner. And if you recognize the things that you can control about your life, on how to improve yourself, and what you can't control.
Yeah, I feel like there's such a pressure now too. Like people try and like make you feel bad if you don't want to be on social media, or it's like, wait, what? You're not posting? You haven't done this?
You're like,
but it's like crazy. But the thing is, like, everybody has a different life. Like everybody is a different human being, and if you don't want to be online, you don't have to be online, and you don't like you literally don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And so I feel like that's like taking your power back, is doing what you want to do. If you don't want to be on social media, then take a break, to take some time off. I took almost 2 weeks off. I didn't even realize that I was. But like I looked at my profile, I was like, oh, I was like, I haven't posted since June. But like sometimes just, if you want to take a break, if you want to just completely get off. I have friends, like one of my best friends, she went on a year cleanse and deleted her like she had her Instagram and she had her page still for when she wanted to come back, but she took an entire year and deleted the app off her phone and just was not on Instagram for a whole year. And it was like she really enjoyed it. And sometimes she, like now she'll take a break from like a couple of weeks at a time. But it's really really important to like make sure that if you are getting a lot of negative, you know, content, or if you are starting to feel inadequate, or if you're even looking at other people's lives and just kind of like comparing yourself like to them a lot, if you find you're doing that a lot, then like definitely take some time to really become more grounded in yourself and more grounded in like what you want and what do you want to see on your social media, what do you want to post on your social media, and like just kind of reevaluating if you even want social media, like just taking that time away and being able to be more clear with your own thoughts and like what you want is so important.
yeah. And with that being said, I know you are talking, you surround yourself in self-love and confidence, and that's amazing. And everyone should be like that. So what do you think is the significance of self-love and confidence within yourself?
I think self-love and confidence is very, very, very important because, well, first with self-love, it's something that like, it sounds so simple, but it's like something that a lot of people don't have for themselves, because either we're taught that if we value ourselves, then we're like kind of being conceited or being too cocky, or we may not even know that we're not valuing ourselves. And we go to other people for validation, and we go to outside sources for validation. And like that leaves us feeling empty, because if we're waiting for somebody else to tell us how great we are, we may be waiting forever, because we can't control anybody else. Like we can't control what people are going to say. Like, of course we could go to somebody like, am I pretty? And I look at them like, you better answer yes.
But
But like, we should just know in our own selves, like be confident in our own life. And like, if we think we look good or if we like what we're wearing, then that's all that matters, because it's our life to live. And that's a big thing in self-love, is just to love everything about yourself and understand that nobody's perfect and that our flaws are what make us unique. And self-love and taking the time to fall in love with who you are really helps to that need for validation from other people, and that need to hear other people compliment you or tell you that you're good, or like to tell you where your place is. You don't need to hear that anymore. You don't need that from other people. And it kind of gives you more freedom to be who you are, be who you want to be, and just live your best life, because you already know that you're awesome. You already know that what you want is gonna happen for you, because you already love yourself. You don't need to hear somebody else tell you how awesome you are when you already know it. And then confidence just comes along with it, because when you love yourself, then you're confident in who you are. And of course, self-love and confidence, it sounds like once you have it, you have it, but it's a journey. Like, it's gonna be a journey. There are days where sometimes I'm just like, I'm so down, and I'm so like, and like my poor man has to, like, you know, make me feel good and stuff. And he's like, oh, like, it's okay, like, blah, blah. Like, I still have those days, and I'm going to have those days for the rest of my life. But what's really important is when I do have those days, I recognize them now. Like, now it's not like, I have a bad day and I sit and I sulk in it. It's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And working to like love whatever's making me feel like I'm missing something, and then working to like make sure that I fill myself up and not have to like look for likes or comments or view numbers or subscriber count or whatever else is like making me feel bad. Like, I don't have to. That's not the reason why I live. Like, I live for me, and I live for my own life. And I think that self-love and confidence and just understanding who you are, it just makes those bad days happen less. And when you do have those bad days, they don't hit as hard, because you know it's just a bad day, and it's not who you are as a person, because you've had way more good days than bad days. And yeah, I think that's it.
So you talked about your self-love journey and like the kind of the progress that you took like throughout your life. So how did that process impact you? Like, were there times where you struggled? Were the highs and lows? So what is that experience like for you in starting that journey?
Well, it sounds like such a nice, like, oh, self-love, but y'all, the
hater mentality is real.
Yes, because the first thing that like made me realize that I didn't really truly, like, I loved myself, but I wasn't like fully in love with myself and everything about myself. It was after I moved to LA, and after, you know, I kind of went through a bit of like the beginning of my career, and it's really difficult being in this industry, and everyone tries to tell you who you are, and everyone tries to tell you what you are going to do, what you can and can't do. And it's kind of like, it takes a toll on you. And I was kind of feeling kind of down, because I was going through not only career stuff and like just, you know, hearing no's a lot. You're going to hear a lot of no's, because that's this industry. But like, it came to where I started getting my yeses, but then they wouldn't pay me on time, or they started to be kind of sneaky with the way that they were doing their productions and things like that. But I would just kind of take it. And I also was going through friendship drama at the time as well, because I was kind of surrounded by a lot of people that, it was wild. It was wild. Like, it was just a bunch of people started coming out of the woodwork and like kind of latching on, and like, there was this big giant group of people that I used to hang out with. And for some reason, I don't know how, but for some reason they made me like the ringleader of this group. I don't want to be no ringleader, no clique leader or anything. Cause also too, like, we're all out of school. Like, we're kind of like too old like be kind of cliquey. And it was just like, it was really weird to me, because people started making me feel like I was in charge of making sure that everyone else was okay that hung around us. And so they kind of like put their happiness on me. And I didn't realize that, like, I should have told them no. I was such a people pleaser, and I was just like, well, I gotta make them happy because that's what they want from me. So when I started really, really feeling drained was when I was like, okay, something's got to change. And I went to first my friend Alex, her name's Alessandra DiMartino. She was the one she's like one of my best friends, and I was having like a really, really, really bad day. And I was just talking to her on the phone. And I was just like, girl, like, I'm so drained. I'm so tired. Like, I just feel like everyone just wants something from me, but nobody wants to like actually be there for me. And I was just like, I was really, really down. And so she was seeing this, because she was going through a really bad breakup at the time. And she was seeing this therapist who was also a spiritual therapist, a spiritual healer. And so she gave me her number. Like, she actually set up a whole like appointment for me. And so I talked to her on the phone, the spiritual therapist, and I talked to her on the phone, and she kind of like opened up my eyes and made me realize that like a lot of the problems that I was going through was because I didn't believe that I was enough, and I didn't believe that my like opinions and my thoughts were right. I always just thought everyone else was right, and like what I wanted didn't really matter. And she opened up my eyes to that. And then just like a kind of like the first, I guess, initiation, the first little door open to self-love. But then I started kind of like creeping through, because I was like, oh wait, like I really got to figure this out. Like I gotta start loving myself, and I gotta realize that I'm enough. And the second time I went to my own spiritual healer, she was a Reiki practitioner, which was like, I'd never gone to one before, but I heard about it, and I was like, let's just give it a try. So I went. This is after I kind of cut ties with a lot of people that were in that like big giant group, because it just got too much. And I was like, y'all need to stop putting all y'all's drama on me, and like stop trying to put me down, stop saying stuff to me that's just not right, because I don't say stuff like that to y'all. So I kind of cut some of those people off, and that's when I went to the spiritual healer, the Reiki healer. She was like a cleanser type person, like energy and stuff like that. So I was like, let's see what this is. So I went, and she also told me, she was like, you need to love yourself more. And I kind of started explaining to her a little bit of what was going on, like what had happened with like the friend groups, and like especially like romantic relationship. Like, oh, that was horrible. And so she was like, the reason, she told me that I still needed to love myself more, and that I needed to come get a self-love routine together. And so that's when I really kind of like had to sit down and start like doing a little bit more research into different ways to get my self-esteem and to love myself more. And that it started off pretty rocky, because you have to realize like the things that you believe about yourself and why it's manifesting into your life. And so I was believing a lot of like negative things about myself, and so it was very eye-opening, and it was very like shocking too, because I was like, that's why my life is bad, because I believe this about me. That's why, oh my gosh. So like, because whatever you believe is true. Like if you think that this man you see is the finest man you've ever seen in your life, then that's true to you. Like you've seen him, you're like, wow, no, he's the finest man. Like that is your truth. So it's the same goes for yourself. If you believe like something about yourself, like, oh, like I'm never gonna get to my dreams, or I'm never gonna blah blah blah, like that's true. And I was just believing a lot of stuff about myself, like, oh well, I'm always gonna be like somebody's sidekick, or oh well, I want to do this, but like this is not what I'm gonna be able to do. So like recognizing those things, it was a lot. It was pretty emotional too, like just recognizing all those things that I believe about myself, because it was like sad. Like I was like, whoa, I was like, why do I believe that about me? And so the beginning of my self-love journey was very, very emotional. It was a lot of stuff to work through, but like I just kept going, because I was like, I want to like fully love myself, and I want to not believe negative things about me, and I want to like be free of other people's expectations. So after all the emotionalness and all of that, like I mean, I still sometimes have days where I get really like, oh, like I get really emotional about stuff or about life, but it's a lot better now, because I actually believe the things that I want to believe about myself, and I actually like took the time to change my thought process. And anytime I'm feeling bad about myself or down about myself, like I know to kind of like switch my brain to think positively. And a big, big, big helpful factor is that like my best friends, I was very open with my friends and with my boyfriend about my self-love journey and my self-love process. So whenever I'm feeling down and stuff, they actually help me to like remember what I want to believe about myself, and like they kind of help validate. Well, and I don't say validate me, because that's the whole point of like self-love, is that you don't need validation from other people, but they help to validate the points that I made about myself and to like remind me like, hey, no, you don't believe this about yourself. You believe this positive thing about yourself. So I think having a group of supportive friends and like supportive partners, that's a big, big, big like helpful factor with my self-love journey. And I don't know, it feels good to kind of like, when I have those down days, they like tell me like, girl, get over it, come on. So yeah.
So what would you tell someone who's like struggling and like not loving themselves? Because I know there's sometimes people feel ashamed to ask for help or to feel emotions, and they try to bottle it up, and it's like, and then something happens and they're all over the place because they never knew how to deal with those things. So what would be like the very first step like would be good to help someone get out of that dig tunnel?
Well, the first thing I would say is that everybody has emotions, and I think we think that we have to hide what we're feeling, and we have to put on this like facade, and I think social media has a big part to do with that, because everyone puts their highlight reel online. They put their best selves online, and so we think in our day-to-day lives that we have to be our best selves all the time, or be at this like happy, like, you know, this is good day. We have to be like that, and so we just try and like hide it. But I would tell them like, you don't have to hide it. Everybody has bad days. Like if Britney Spears survived 2007, then hashtag free Britney, because
Yes,
right
Britney.
now. But if like she can go through what she went through, like even think like big celebrities and stuff, they're a kind of a good example, because when we look at like mainstream media, or like look at the things that we automatically think about them, or like, oh wait, but they're doing this, she was in this show, blah blah blah. But then when you look behind the scenes, or you do a little bit more research into their stories, like Demi Lovato was like doing on tour and like doing Camp Rock, and she had her own show and stuff, and she made her documentary, and she revealed that she was going through a really rough time, probably one of the roughest, craziest times in her life throughout all of that. And like Selena Gomez, you know, we see her at her high, like she's performing, she's doing these things, but she actually had to go to a rehabilitation center because she was dealing with a lot of depression and stuff. So for a lot of us, we look at all the positives in everyone else, and we're like, oh, but they're this, I have to be like them. But we don't necessarily look at the things that they had to go through, and the things that they had to do to get to where they are. So feeling that way and feeling bad and feeling down is normal, and it's gonna happen, because life has mountains and peaks. And don't avoid when you're feeling like that. Don't try and just shut it off and shut it down and ignore it, because the breakdown will happen. It's gonna come out, it's gonna manifest in some type of way, and you're not gonna be able to control it. Like it's just gonna come out. So it's better to kind of like feel those emotions while you have them, because when you feel what you're feeling, then you start to understand why you're feeling it. But we're so used to trying like brush off our feelings and brush off our emotions. So I would tell somebody that really is going through it, or wants to start a self-love journey and feels down, to feel it. Don't just brush it off. Don't feel bad that you feel bad. Don't feel like you have to be happy all the time, or you have to be a certain person. You don't have to be anyone but you. So if you're having a bad day, that's all right, because you're still you. You're having that day. It's okay. Feel those emotions, understand why you're feeling them, and don't try and rush it and brush it off, and just to be like so and so over there who looks happy and stuff, because you never know what they're really going through inside of their own mind, and you don't know what they had to go through to get to where they are.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, even the people that we admire the most, like celebrities, like you said, they all have like negative feelings and like bad thoughts too. Everyone has some sort of insecurity or something that they just feel negative about. So don't feel that, oh, I'm just doing this because I'm so selfish, because everyone else is having a great time and I'm just here thinking all these bad things. But no, really take the time to process all of those emotions and figure out why you're feeling this way, and don't be embarrassed to do it, because it's a way that you're going to improve your life in general, and you're going to be able to understand yourself better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's really important to note that a lot of times people see beauty from the outside, and that's not what it's about. Beauty's from the inside. And if you are happy in the inside, it's going to show with your vibe.
Radiate.
Yes.
You're going to radiate a positive vibe, and that's what you radiate, both of you guys. It's very positive. Yeah. Like, I saw Sky Jackson tweet this, and she was like, I don't care if you're pretty on the outside. If you're ugly on the inside, you're ugly all around. And I was like, Sky Jackson.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, I agree with you. Queen Jackson is spitting facts. Okay.
Yeah.
So this brings us to our closing. Thank you so much, Miss Arianna, for being featured on our podcast. She gave so much lovely advice, very helpful advice. Definitely changed my perspective. I don't know about y'all listening right now, but it definitely changed my perspective. And so, yeah, I just had a fun time, hence our podcast name. I had a very, she gave a lot of useful tips, and it really just can change how you think. So make sure to, process what we've said, and just take away this new information and see what you do with it. So thank you so much for joining us today. And that is all on today's episode for Fun Times in Dana with Heidi. Bye.
And if you want to find Arianna, where can you find her?
Sure.
You can find me at Arianna Jonae on Instagram and Twitter. And then you can also find my podcast at Move Girl Podcast on Instagram as well.
Yes, go guys.
It's a great podcast. I was listening to it and I was like, yeah.
Finished all the episodes.
Oh, yes. Oh, I've got some great topics. I'm excited.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you so much for, it really means a lot to us because, me and Dana, we barely met this school year.
Yeah,
barely
met. Like last year.
And it really brought this idea to life. And like, we're small, like not like we are small. And for me, you were the long shot. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever would. So I was like, let me just do it. Send. And I was like, okay, let me go sleep. And then Dana's like, and I was like, so I'm like, so just saying, like, thank you so much. It really means a lot to us because someone so big can impact someone so small, and it could like perpetuate and like, yeah.
And thank you so much. Like that means it really means a lot because like I'm really, really hard on myself sometimes with hence the whole going on a self-love journey. So it really means a lot that you guys even wanted me to be on your show. Like I really, really appreciate it so much. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's all for this episode of Fun Times with Dana and Heidi. And have a great day. And bye.
Bye.